I dreamt that I was in the woods and my daddy showed up all out of nowhere. There was someone with him. I don't remember who it was. But he told me that he was going to walk me home. And I was a little surprised. So I allowed him to walk me home. And when we got to the place that I call home, he said, I'm going to come in and make sure that the place is safe. So I was living like in the woods. So I was living in a forest or something. And so in order for my dad to check and make sure everything was safe after he walked me home, he looked all around. He looked under my bed, which was full of thorns. And I looked at him in a sort of concerned manner, sort of as to say I can explain, or I know that my bed, underneath my bed, is in a condition that it shouldn't be. But he gave me a feeling like, don't be ashamed. I understand why it looks like that. So I remember just feeling so safe and secure, and excuse me, in the fact that my father walked me home. And I always wanted to feel safe, and I wanted my father to be the one to provide that type of protection. So after my dad made certain that my living quarters were safe, he stepped away for a few, but I could still see him. So my son decided to visit the water, the body of water, which was nearby, and it was maybe a hop, skip, and a jump away from where my bed was. And so I saw my son going over, and I could tell that he was approaching a dangerous area. It looked like it was still on the surface, but like there was a leaf, sort of like a lily pad. And my son thought that it was solid earth, and he went to step on it, and so he began to be taken away by a current. So I said, Jojo, no. And Jojo was too quick. I don't know if he didn't hear me or he was just being disobedient, but he went ahead and still tried to step on the river bank, on the river's edge, thinking that it was dry land, but it was just greenery on top of the water. So I yelled out, Daddy, save him! And I felt a certain unrest and disappointment, believing that once again I was going to be disappointed by my father. And I said, to myself, there's no use. He's too far away. He'll never be able to save my son. But to my surprise, my daddy reached his arm way over and was able to pull my son Joel up by his heel. Wow, and that restored all my trust back into my father. And so when I after I woke up, I began to think of this dream, and it reminded me 100%. It reminded me of the 23rd division of Psalms, and everything lined up until I got to the part where it spoke of He anointed my head with oil, and I said, well, that part of the 23rd Psalm was not fulfilled. And I didn't think that it could be since the dream was over with. And so maybe a day later or so, or maybe that evening, I took my children to visit my mother. And before we left, she grabbed her blessed oil and said, well, the pastor anointed this oil, and he told us to anoint everyone with it and say that I am being anointed with fresh oil. And as my mother began to talk about the fresh oil, the fresh anointed oil, I shall be anointed with fresh oil. She wanted to anoint my head as well. And oh my goodness, it was like a light bulb that came on that coincided with the dream. And I told my mother, oh my goodness, I was not anointed with fresh oil in the dream, and that was the missing part of the dream that lined up with the 23rd division of Psalms. But I was able to get the fresh anointed oil. And my head was anointed with oil by her in her house, so it made the dream complete. And not only was it regular oil, but it was new fresh oil. I should be anointed with fresh oil. Excuse me. So that dream brought a great sense of healing and forgiveness to me for my father, because it was very important to me that my father protect me. And I felt like all the people in my life who I looked towards for protection, they let me down. And so, I was carrying some bitterness and resentment and, unforgiveness in my heart towards, especially my father. So it was great that the dream came to me, and my father was the figure that was used. And I thought about all the thorns that were twisted up under my bed, and they were all intertwined and tangled. And that reminds me of how sometimes we can have deep-rooted issues in our lives, and we really don't know that they could ever be resolved. And how, my father in the dream, he understood, and he made me feel like there's nothing for me to be ashamed of. And those deep-rooted hurt, it came from way from back when I was a little girl, feeling like there's a void that my father was not filling. And so I did look for people, men in particular in my life to protect me, and they let me down too, where I felt like, they only hurt me, took advantage of me. And so all those roots and have been uprooted. All the pain is gone associated with the distrust